Nothing but the truth. Hi, I'm Ray of Sunshine. Glad you're with me today. If you were with me in yesterday's video, you have an idea of where I'm going to continue in today's program. And I felt compelled to start with that introduction about nothing but the truth, just to point out that if I'm telling you, it's the truth. And just because I say it's the truth, I realize doesn't necessarily make it the truth, but it's the truth. The reason I bring that up is because some of the things that I'm going to be talking about probably in this video are a little bit out there. But if you know anything about me, you know that I'm a little bit out there to begin with. And this whole video series is a metaphor, really, for going from the old world to the new world. And the new world, as I talk about on every single video, is very different from the old world. And so it's a matter of getting used to different. And you'll see different. On some of these videos, you'll see a comparison to the old world on some of the older videos, like that 1 through 6 video collection. And I'll tell you right now, there's some things that they're offbeat, and video number 6 has two endings. So if you go see that one, make sure you stay tuned for the whole thing. There's some things that are offbeat, but you know, the idea is for you to discover something different and to discover how you deal with different. And that's different. And this video is going to be a little different too. And some of the upcoming series are going to be different like you've never seen before. But that's the whole energy, the whole new world energy is going to be different, like we ain't never seen before. So different is on the horizon. And what I talk about, because I repeat myself every day, I talk about doing something different to discover something different, which is what I do. And I talk about that on a lot of those videos, a lot of my experiences, a lot of my adventures of doing something different to discover something different about me. So today is the full moon in Capricorn. I chose this corner of my sanctuary because there's lots of moons here. There's lots of suns too. And well, I have suns and moons and stars and planets and all kinds of stuff all over the place. If you've been on a tour of my sanctuary, you've seen some of those things before. Those are mostly in videos 1 and 2 in that 1 through 6 video collection. And you meet, a lot of the people in my life, and you'll learn about a lot of the things I have displayed in my sanctuary here. Anyway, this particular corner has lots of moons. There's one here with some twins in it because I'm a twin, Gemini. There's that moon up there, which is one that I took a picture of as I was standing on my porch, practically holding that moon in my hand. And this is many, many years ago. This is way before whoever they is, called it supermoons. We have supermoons all the time now. But that was a supermoon way back when. It was really practically hanging on my porch. And there's another moon here, which is there's a poem on there about advice from the moon. There's this moon here, which you can see lights up. And I had that turned to blue on a blue moon occasion back on, well, it was my party time video, which I believe it's it's in the first 1 through 6 video collection, which you can go see, and I encourage you to go see, because part of the idea here, this whole program is a metaphor for going from the old world to the new world. And so you're going to see some old formats, and you're going to be seeing some new formats coming up, and you're going to see different like you've never seen before. I'm just doing this. I'm doing this as a favor to you, to prepare you for what's on the horizon. Different like we ain't never seen before. So I do something different every day to get used to different. And so the topic that I'm going to continue from yesterday is I wonder. And it's a little bit different in some ways. And maybe this won't be unusual for some of you. But as I mentioned, when I ended in yesterday's video, I spent a lot of my life wondering about things. Because I became a hermit at a very young age, and I learned that I loved going into my imagination and wondering about things. And so one of the things, what I talked about yesterday, is I wondered at one time, what it would be like to lose 100 pounds. And that was 98 pounds ago. So there was a time in my life that I was 230 pounds. And there was a time in my life when I was 130 pounds, which wasn't all that long ago. And now I'm 132 pounds. And the reason I know that is because when I go to the doctor's office, they make me stand on the scale. And I just did this a couple of weeks ago. And it was 132.4 pounds or something like that. But at one time, I had lost 100 pounds. And, it happened in different segments. There was one big segment where I lost a huge amount of weight all at one time, and I dwindled down and became a prune. Not a regular prune, a pink prune, but a prune nonetheless. And then I had to wonder about what it would be like not to be wrinkled from my chin to my ankles, because that's what I was. I was one big wrinkle. But so, the process of wondering about losing weight was as simple as that. I wonder what it would feel like to lose 100 pounds. I wonder what it would feel like to be like that person. I wonder what it would feel like to be healthy and vibrant and strong like that person. And I've had advantages that maybe some other people don't have, because I have the power of observation, and I can look at people and say, wow, I like that shape. I'd like to be like that. I also have the advantage, since I'm a massage therapist, of being able to feel it, actually feel it. And I've had many people on my table that I say, wow, I wonder what it would be like to feel like this. So that's how the process began for me, wondering. I wonder what it's like to feel like this. And then I became a prune, and then I decided that, that process worked pretty good. Let me try wondering what it would be like to build my body up, to feel strong. And I would look at people who had the kind of shapes that I was interested in. When I was 4 years old, and for many, many years after that, for decades after that, I had a pot belly. I was like 6 months pregnant, and I have pictures of it when I was a little kid. And many of those pictures are pictures of me stuffing my face with something, and it's dripping down on my pot belly. But I remember thinking many when I was in my teens, I'm thinking, I'd look around at guys, mostly guys, that had these pot bellies, and I'm thinking, first of all, I'm wondering, why is it that I'm born with a pot belly, but what is it that I have in common with these people? And I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but I realized, it hit me back then, there was some kind of emotional imbalance. And I don't even know what that meant. I just knew that there was something emotional about this. It wasn't just the eating, because I was born with a pot belly. So I wasn't even used to eating before I even had a pot belly. I always had one. And now I don't have a pot belly anymore. Look, no more pot belly. And that was a result of wondering. I wonder what it would be like to feel like that. So a lot of that process has to do with unbelieving, because I went through, as most people do, a lot of years of believing that which I was exposed to, that which I was conditioned to. All the people in my life, people that I considered to be authorities, and so I believed it. Now we're in the energy of unbelieving, which is why I talk about doing something different to discover something different, because unbelieving is different than believing. And it's, in order to believe something new, you kind of have to unbelieve what came before that, right? And speaking of doing something different, if you've been with me on any of my other videos, you've heard me talk about this, and you heard me talk about how I repeat myself, and I repeat myself for a reason. I repeat myself because that's what it takes sometimes for things to sink in, and I know how that works because I've been repeating things to myself my entire life. So, maybe here's your chance to do something different. And my suggestion is to send this video to some character that it would be out of character for you to send it to. Why? Because maybe you'll discover something different about you, but maybe they'll discover something different about them. Maybe they'll come across something in that video that you send that's going to change their life. Maybe you'll discover something in one of those videos that's going to change your life. So what are you waiting for? Do something different. And on most of those videos, I talk about the different experiences that I've been having lately, and I've been having fun with it. Fun is a motivating force for me. This whole video series is the motivation for this whole video series for me is fun and discovery, discovering things about myself, because you can't have too much fun. There's no such thing as too much happy. So why not contribute toward it, right? So let me get back on I wonder, because I've wondered about a lot of things and I've accomplished many things as a result of wondering. At one time, I wondered what it would be like to quit smoking cigarettes. Now, I wondered about that for a long time, although I used to wonder in a different way. So, to be precise, that was a battle that I fought for 50 years, smoking cigarettes. And I never really did anything halfway. I've been hooked on many addictions, and I don't go halfway with any of them. I go full out. And I've been subject to many addictions, many that you're probably familiar with, and maybe some that you've never even heard of. But I've been through all of them. And anyway, cigarettes was a big one for me, and it was a tough one for me. And it remained tough until I decided that it wasn't tough anymore. But I did that for 50 years, battling with quitting smoking cigarettes. And I tried everything imaginable. I tried the drugs. I tried the nicotine replacement programs. I tried acupuncture. I tried hypnosis. I did them all, and I quit many, many times. And so maybe, I'm thinking maybe that's part of my process too. Practice makes perfect. And so I practiced quitting many, many times, and that contributes toward becoming good at it. But what really made a difference was when I think it's about 3 years ago that I finally quit for good, and I finally figured out that my system that I've used for other things worked pretty well, and why wouldn't it work for this? So I started imagining. I wondered what it would be like to be a non-smoker, and to feel happy about it, and to feel good about it. And I realized that for all of those 50 years that I have been smoking, and I wasn't an occasional smoker, I was like 2-3 packs a day. When I met Sid, my best friend Sid, and if you haven't met him, you can on just about every other video prior to this one, because I talk about him in all those videos, he was smoking 5 packs a day. Now, do you have any idea what you have to go through to smoke 5 packs a day? It meant literally that he constantly had a cigarette going somewhere. There's a cigarette hanging out of his mouth. There's a cigarette in an ashtray. There's a cigarette in the other. You know what I mean? There's cigarettes everywhere because there's always one being lit off the other. And you have to do that. That's the only, unless you're up 24 hours a day, you have to light one off the other to smoke 100 cigarettes a day. And that's what he was doing. Anyway, I wasn't that devoted. But a lot of times I'd be 2-3 packs a day. I was pretty devoted, and so it was a challenge for me. And recently, the most recent time, and the final time that I quit, I went through a process. I went through the nicotine replacement programs. I went through the quit smoking, smoking cessation programs, I guess they call it. That was a 7-week program, and I did 2 of them, 2 7-week programs back to back, because the first one didn't stick. And I said, well, you know what? I'm determined. I'm going to go through this. But during that process is when I said, you know what? It's not working. I need a different process. Why don't I try wondering what it feels like to be smoke free? Why don't I figure out what it feels like to be able to breathe? And I knew what all those feelings were because I had been through it before. I had quit before. But all the time, all the times that I had quit before, I'm wondering about what it would be like, what it would be like to have just one more cigarette. You know what I mean? I was hooked. So now it was a matter of changing focus, and that's what it requires, a focus. Prior to that, I was focusing on whatever happened to come up, and of course, what would come up is I want a cigarette. Uh, I wonder what it would be like if I could just have one, that kind of thing. I had to change my focus, and my focus became, I wonder what it would be like to be a non-smoker. I wonder what it would be like to be smoke-free. I wonder what it would be like to feel happy. Because I've come to the conclusion that happy is better than crappy. And I talk about that often. You'll see that in my pilot video, Why Me? Check it out. There'll be a box on the side of my head at the end of this video. So I went through that process with cigarettes, and then another big process I went through, and I believe it's on video number 6 in that 1 through 6 video collection. I talk about this because I have a long history of pain that I've been exposed to in my life, and there was a period in particular after I went through my tangent episode, which is in that pilot video. So just before 2012, 2010, 2011, my life was crumbled to smithereens, and so I had gone through a lot of pain emotionally, and that manifested as pain physically. And during that period, 2010, 2011, I had a whole series of different surgeries. I had a gallbladder surgery. I had my pancreas removed. I had a hip restoration surgery, and I was a disaster. And so on that video, I think it's video number 6, I talk about the woman that I met at the casino who was telling me about, I have all these drinks, but they don't help because I'm in so much pain, and I have all these drugs, and they don't help because I'm in so much pain. And this is when it hit me. I said, I used to talk like that when I used to be like that. So let me try something different. I started wondering what it would feel like to eliminate the pain. And I would look at people that would move around freely, even just things like walking up the stairs, which was excruciating for me. When I was with my best friend Sid, and that was during that time. He passed away in 2015. But just before that was like one of the worst times in my life in terms of pain. And that's what it's hard to not focus on pain when you're in pain. So this was a big challenge for me, but I was determined that I was going to do it. So I would focus on, I wonder what it would feel like to not be in pain. And then as time went on, as the months went on, and I started doing different things. I started going for walks, and because a good part of my life, I wasn't able to have activity. I wasn't able to exercise. I wasn't able to do things like that. I was in too much pain. I was in too much disability. I've never crossed my legs, and I've never sat on the floor and crossed my legs like that. My body just doesn't work that way. So there were a lot of things that I wasn't able to do. But as I started wondering what it was like to not be in pain, my behaviors started to change. So automatically, they just fell into place, and I started becoming more active. And then one day I started noticing, hey, I don't have this pain anymore. Because when I talk about, I'm an expert on pain. I'm telling you, I have dealt with pain my whole life, starting when I was an infant. And, I could give you an explanation of all, one thing led to the other. But most of what led to what was me focusing on the pain and imagining it getting worse and imagining it being horrible, and it was worse and it was horrible, and that continued for a long time. I decided, I wonder what it's like to not be in pain. And one day I noticed, hey, you know what? This isn't in pain anymore. And then one day, all of a sudden, I'm standing here this was my studio at the time. Now it's my sanctuary, but it was my massage studio. And and this is where I would do some of my activities, my stretching or whatever. And one day I'm standing here and I said, something's different. I couldn't quite put my finger on it. I said, I'm not in any pain. For the first time in my life, I'm not in any pain. And it was just amazing. And I couldn't even believe it. But I said, you know what? It feels good. I'm going to keep focusing on what it feels like to not be in pain. And that worked for me. So that's pretty much what I have to say about wondering, and I'll talk about it in some other videos. This whole video process is not as there's more to it than what meets the eye. And I was just thinking about that this morning because I'm going through different formats, which you will notice if you look at some of my previous formats. My A series, my 1 through 6 series, my B series is different than those. And every series I talk about those previous ones, and I'm going to keep sending you back there because I want you to see the progression of where I came from, where I am, and where I'm going to. You'll be able to follow me with that. But I realized this week that what makes it even more complicated for me is, as I'm completing one format, like right now I'm in the middle of my B format, but what's on my mind is my C format that's coming up. And so, I'm preparing for that, I'm practicing for that, and I'm completing, so I'm doing this format at the same time as behind the scenes, I'm planning my next format, so it gets a little bit complicated, and this whole system was a little bit complicated for me. There was a big gap between my original pilot video and my my blue moon video. Oh, that's what I was talking about. My blue moon. I had it set to my blue moon on that party time video, which is my birthday video. And birthday videos, and I talk about this on there too. I probably talk about it on several different videos, but birthdays always were a time for people to celebrate getting older, which I never understood. And so I stopped that. I was done with that when I was 19. That's on the party time video. You can go see that too. So anyway, meanwhile, let me give you a reminder to do something different, to discover something different about you. Send this video to somebody, to some character that it would be out of character for you to send it to. See what happens. And meanwhile, it's playtime. Create you.